Greetings, viewers, and welcome back to another episode of FitzRupee Cast featuring Dawn of War 2, the Elite mod. Red-Rupee here tonight, calling the shots for you as we head into my favorite, a one-on-one match, mano a mano, head-to-head on Calderis Refinery. On the red team, we've got Mr. ManonMars as the Warp Spider Exarch for the Eldar team. His opponent, none other than DeJaVu as the Orc Mech Boy. DeJaVu heading up the one-on-one scene in Elite Mod these days. I think, man, I'm never online and I don't see this guy looking for games, so if you're ever looking for some one-on-one matches, I'm sure he'll be happy to oblige. So not only are we on this big open map Calderis, but we have two teleporting heroes. Both of these heroes are going to be able to dart all over the place and get these caps, do some pesky decap, and we're really going to see which of these players really is going to stay on top of their micro of these teleporting rapid maneuvering heroes here. We can see both players grabbing those secondary power nodes. We've got standard build coming in from DeJaVu. Actually, no, I spoke too soon, I think. We don't have the double shooters coming out that we normally see. He's going for a lot of power early, dropping both generators on the natural. Has the secondary noted as well. Orc Mech is looking for trouble around the map. Meanwhile, Shoot is taking a little bit of fire from the Warp Spider and getting flanked here by the Banshees. Surprising to see the Banshees coming in from this direction. Normally you'll see the Banshees move around the western part of the map here over where the Mech Boy and Guardians are so they can get in on the gen farm over here. So already no cap on the natural point here. The Mech Boy went super offensive, now getting the opposing cap there on his opponent's natural victory point. ManonMars already getting the improved targeter is going to give that Warp Spider more range and damage to really start bleeding away at these Orc squads. The Banshee's running way back across the map. I'm not sure if that was the best use of them. He probably could have just sent the Warp Spider back here on his own. And now these Banshees are taking a little unnecessary fire from the mech. Dire Avengers are back out on the field. Mech Boy teleporting away, trying to continue the harass, keeping all of these requisition points in his control. I think the Banshees really should have either stuck on this side of the map and either gone for the power or maybe tried to engage these shooter boys that are out here. Knowing that he is in fact an Orc, there's either extra sluggers or extra shooters out there somewhere. I think he recognized where those were. The shooters did initially get pushed back, but instead the Banshees are hanging on the back end themselves. Aspect of strength already upgraded, so instead of going for the speedier Banshees, he's going to be banking on that heavy melee in Tier 2, which I think is pretty good against Orc. I think having that heavy melee is pretty good considering you might see something early like a truck on the field. Since Walkers will be having their melee resist now, it's not going to be as effective against, say, a Kill a Can or something like that, but having that soft anti-vehicle counter I think is pretty good for a truck. And there's really not too much to jump over around here, but who knows. For the time being, we've got ManonMars losing his secondary point. I think the same is going to happen here for DeJaVu. Stormboy's out here already. Warp Spider also has his heavy gauge Death Spinner, so really going to be pouring out some serious range damage. Knocking over that Mech Boy, trying to catch him out of position. Didn't quite manage to lock him down in time, though. He's going to retreat, getting the battery pack himself, so he's going to have some heals to deal with these Banshees in melee. Hopefully ManonMars spots that and he doesn't overcommit to an early melee engagement. The best thing, you really want to time something like that. If you can time the battery pack to upgrade right in the middle of a melee fight or something like that when your opponent isn't expecting it, get them overcommitted into a melee fight they think they can win, then pop the heal right before you start losing any models on the squad. Might win yourself a squad wipe with something along those lines. Shooter Boy's out here, but not completely upgraded. Or rather, not upgraded at all. Just now getting the knob leader. They managed to take out a single generator. Orc will be in the tech advantage for the time being. Warp Spider trying to do a little bit of a harass, but DeJaVu is pretty well split right now. He's got two squads out here on this side to deal with the Warp Spider. The rest of his forces he has moving in on the Guardians. Stormboy's getting in there, starting to do some damage to the Guardians, but ooh, assault jump there. I'm not sure if he was trying to predict a grenade or what, but he may have actually wiped the squad if he hadn't jumped. Banshees now running around the far side over here doing a little bit of power harass as we expected to see. They can probably move over to engage these shooters, but they're going to have to be careful because sluggers are in the retreat path. ManonMars keeping the squad count pretty low for himself. There's 4 orc squads to just his 3. I think some rangers would probably be pretty good here, but they're a lot more difficult to keep out of trouble with both a mech boy and storm boys on the field. So mech boy right now harassing this guardian weapons team. I don't think he's meleeing though. He's sitting right in front of them. Oh, and he takes a point blank volley right to the face and goes down. Unfortunate oversight there by DeJaVu. I'm not sure if he wasn't paying attention or what. Shooter boys now greatly outmatched, recognizing they have to get out of there. They got the 1 gen. They did a little more damage to the other one, but managed to get at least the other contested power node back in his hands. Looks like ManonMars is going to lose another node on this side of the map. You really have to consider how much it's worth that 125 requisition to put these nodes up in these contested positions sometimes, and weigh out whether it's better to hold on to that for either getting another squad out or something along those lines. It buys a little time when you can't support it, but other than that, that's about all it's going to do. You're not really getting much in return on a power investment on that, and when you have things like shooters and storm boys out here, Orc have some pretty great squads for gen bashing all around, so it really doesn't buy you too much time. Banshee's now engaging, I think, a bit out of position. ManonMars might be overcommitting to this at the moment. These shooters are just sitting here taking it though, and then Knob does get knocked down right into the thick of the Banshees. Heal goes down, but I still don't think the Banshees are low enough to stop him. Ooh, and that's a big loss early on for DeJaVu. After already losing his mech, now losing one of his shooter boy squads as well. I think ManonMars is looking pretty good going into tier 2 at this point. Storm boys not doing much even after the jump there. They're pretty notorious for not doing a lot of retreat damage because they kind of have a long attack animation, and they're sort of charging right there. Doesn't do much damage on its own. So over on the eastern side of the map, once again, we've got shooter boys facing off, also upgraded with the knob. I think that DeJaVu's going for the knob over the big shooters to give these shooter boys some more survivability against the damage output of this Warp Spider Exarch. He's with both the heavy gauge Death Spinner and the improved targeters. That's really quite a bit of damage he's doing. Oh my gosh! And very fortunate for those Dire Avengers to get out there with a mere 20 HP behind those Storm Boys. As we were just saying, those Storm Boys aren't too great at getting kills on retreat because just the way their animation works and the way they move with their melee charges makes them kind of difficult to move quickly enough to get those good hits. Warp Spider under a lot of melee pressure, but of course he can just warp on out of there, and with the Shuriken setup, the Orcs have no choice but to retreat. The Storm Boys did have enough energy for a jump, but I'm sure he had an inkling that those Banshees were waiting back there for him. They are pretty beat up, so the Storms might have been able to do a little something to him, but it's not worth the risk of jumping in and potentially losing the squad. And even if you don't lose the squad, Storm Boys are not cheap. You don't want to bleed out a lot with that squad at all. So right now we can see DeJaVu's had a pretty commanding hold on the map so far. Like you can see ManonMars just finally capping back his natural requisition points. The rest of them have been in the hands of DeJaVu so far, and that's probably how he's managed to stay in this game despite bleeding so much early game here, because he did lose the mech. He lost that squad as we saw earlier. He is tier 2. He's already got the Storm Boys knob upgraded, now getting the improved rocket pack so he can do that Bomber Boy attack and blast away one of his storms to maybe get some more kills or a little more disruption in the heat of battle. We have extra generators down for ManonMars on this side of the map as well. Since he did go such a light tier 1, he's got plenty of requisition to continue pumping out those generators, but if he doesn't get out here to support them, he's just going to lose them all anyways, and it's just going to be a lot of wasted wreck. Might have been better off getting that early tier 1 squad. Mech-Boy upgraded with a custom force field as well, which we just saw on that Guardian Weapons team. He can activate that and teleport in and instantly knock over anything in his path. And of course it protects him from melee and does a surprising amount of range mitigation as well. DeJaVu completely ignoring the Altark right here. The Altark drop came in, started hacking away at the Storm Boys. Storm Boys do not care, they just want to break things. Bashing away at the power. Altark's doing what she can, but I don't think it's going to do too much. She really needs some support. Luckily, it's on the way. Stormboy's probably going to get this node, though, and get out of there. But, oh, they actually jump out just before finishing off the node. Wanted to hold on to that for maybe another half second or so and get those last couple hits in to slow down the return on that power. And, oh, it just went down for some reason. I don't even know what happened there. Altark facing off, big melee engagement here. Banshee's going to be in a lot of trouble. Luckily, the Altark got a good knockback on her own. Banshee's just narrowly escaping, only the Altark returning home. And the Altark is fortunate to get out as well. With the battery pack, DeJaVu managed to take care of that pretty well. The battery pack and the custom force field, actually. Gen Farm is completely down for ManonMars. I don't think he has any power income at the moment. Shuriken weapon team trying to get set up, but just a split second too late. The Sluggers get in on it, get it de-set up, and suddenly ManonMars looking like he's on the back foot pretty well here. DeJaVu sitting on a huge pile of resources right now. ManonMars hasn't been able to answer too much, despite having a pretty solid tier 1 here. This double melee push along with the Mech Boy with his great support abilities completely took down 2 gen farms here. Or I guess he didn't take this one out, he just captured it for himself. But DeJaVu's heading into tier 3 screaming ahead of his opponent before ManonMars even has an opportunity to. Looks like we lost some Guardians and Shooter Boys, something going on down here. The potential gen bash averted, I think. And the Howling Banshees, oh, tried to get the cap, but the node went down, buying a little time for DeJaVu to drain some more power from his opponent's gens. Always nice when you can get some free power off of the gens that someone else built. Little orc piracy there. Seems appropriate. They aren't freebooters, but, you know, orcs like stealing stuff. It's just an orky thing to do. War Spider now moving out here. ManonMars, I feel like, hasn't really been able to get a good position on the map here so far. With Eldar, normally you kind of want to get yourself set up and then force your opponent into a weird engagement. But DeJaVu's really had the initiative in these past couple encounters. The VPs are sitting about even. DeJaVu is up by about 30 points right now, but it could still swing in any position. However, ManonMars is looking like he might be in a lot of trouble shortly as knobs are coming onto the field. There's going to be a lot of melee, and the Banshees on their own are not going to be able to deal with this sort of threat. Altark comes in, but the Banshees might not be getting out of there. Let's see if they manage to escape. I think the Mech Boy might be able to take them out if he chooses to pursue right there, but he does not. Warp Spider moving in, doing lots of damage. He's got a yellow circle. Does he also have Crack Shot enabled at the moment? I'm not even sure. Between that Warp Spider and the Altark, though, these Storm Boys are actually in a lot of trouble. They need to get out of there. They jumped just in the nick of time, escaping just barely with a couple models. A lot of close calls here so far in these melee engagements. I'm surprised we haven't seen either the Orcs or the Banshee, or any of the melee squads go down at this point, despite having some very narrow escapes. 291 to 305 at the moment. Knobs coming onto the field. DeJaVu doing a great job getting back in this game, but the map control is steadily turning against him here. All of these quick Eldar units between the Warp Spider, Exarch, and now the Altark, which can speed around, fleet of foot, vault, and do whatever she wants without worry of bleed. Banshee's trying to get a flank in here on these Shooter Boys. The Dire Avengers, I feel like, have been down here trying to harass power wherever they can. I don't think that's the best use of them. They're one of the slower Gen Bash units. At least they have their Exarch at the moment, so that extra shot from him actually speeds it up a good deal. Storm Boys jumping in, but they're out here without any support. And again, I feel like this is kind of what we've been seeing from ManonMars so far, is that he's a little too spread out. He doesn't really have much good... Oh, a big whiff on that grenade. He would have been better off even maybe trying to spike that and get some damage on these Storm Boys before the Banshee engagement comes. Bomber Boy's going down there, but the X-Arc was pretty healthy, so he survived. And oh my gosh! Oh no! With the sacrifice of that Storm Boy was a precursor to the entire squad going down. That's a big loss there for DeJaVu. He's down Shooter Boys, he's down now the Storm Boys as well. Has an injured Slugger Boy squad out here. I don't think he's been reinforcing them at all. I think he's been using them exclusively for capping at this point. Oh my gosh, a rock strike on a lone shuriken platform. Oh, is it even going to take it out? Oh my gosh, it just barely. Just continuing the long line of miraculous escapes so far. DeJaVu in a brief moment of desperation, just dropping 500 red to take out a shuriken weapons platform. And understandably so, the only thing he really has on the field can be pretty easily shut down by suppression. Of course, if the mech boy just gets out there to support the knobs, there's not a whole lot that ManonMars has to deal with them at the moment. But we do have a Wraith Lord on the field. I think the Wraith Lord in combination with both the Autarch and the Banshees can probably stand up to these knobs pretty well. Although I still think it'll be a tight fight if the mech boy's out here to support with both the custom force field and that battery pack. Being able to disrupt melee units and also heal his own can really swing what would be a close fight pretty heavily into your own favor. VP's still neck and neck though. ManonMars has still not yet really recovered from the economic loss of all of those tons of generators he's lost so far in this game. DeJaVu, despite having very few squads, been continuing to keep the pressure on at this point. The knobs engaging here. This might be a bit too much for them. It's pretty much the whole brunt of the Eldar army. A nice special attack going off there from the Wraith Lord. Frenzy gets activated. The knobs will not be taking damage for the next few seconds. Hacking away the Banshees. Or rather, the Autarch. I thought that was the Banshees taking a lot of damage, but the Autarch instead jumps away. Gets out of the fray there. The knobs taking lots of damage from the Banshees. This is not a time you want to be retreating with those fast units in there. And the knob squad goes down. The Wraith Lord's still up. The Banshee's still up. And DeJaVu loses yet another squad. His most expensive squad in Tier 3 as well. I'm not even sure the mech boy's getting out of here now suddenly. He had been upgraded to the Beamy Death Gun. He teleported in to try to get a couple parting shots on that Wraith Lord. Fortunately for him, wow, things are not looking good at all for our blue player. 233 to 241 though. He is bringing a tank onto the field, and I think that's probably going to work out pretty well for him if he can manage to not lose it carelessly to what will likely be a Bright Lance upgrade for this Guardian Weapons team. The Warp Spider, of course, does have his crack shot ability, so if he can upgrade this to a Bright Lance and catch that tank out of position, drop the crack shot on it, it'll tear right through that tank if it doesn't have that armor upgrade, which DeJaVu probably isn't going to have on it at the moment. He's incredibly low on resources. He's struggling just to keep his orcs reinforced at this point. Shooter squad's trying to scare off that Warp Spider. He does get the cap though and gains back some of his generators. He's back to full power production on his natural. He's going to lose these gens here in the center. DeJaVu recognizing with so few squads, he's not going to be able to hold this power, so he does decide to destroy it on this particular advance here. And for now, the Autarch's just vying for position. This is still a bit much for her to take on her own. Oh, and she takes a big tank strike right in the back. This looted tank going to be doing pretty heavy damage. These looted tank shells, I don't know if their spread is a little better or what, but they do some really excellent anti-infantry damage. And here, let's see if the Bright Lance isn't upgraded. See, this was the moment. If that Bright Lance had been upgrading after spotting that tank, I think it might have been able to get a couple shots, but even then it would have been pretty tricky considering these sluggers were moving in. As it is, even though it didn't stay out there, it just narrowly escaped. So maybe that is a wrong call by me, but suddenly, oh no, ManonMars is going to lose his generators once again. The Wraith Lord's way over here. He moved the Wraith Lord way down to where the Guardians were, when really he should have just moved the Guardians up to where the Wraith Guard was and kind of hung out in the center with it, most likely. Now he's going to lose his gen farm yet again. DeJaVu buying tons of time to get back into this game. He does have more requisition income than his opponent at the moment since his army is so small. ManonMars finally heading into tier 3, but now without any gens, what's he going to do now that he's there? He's only got 24 power coming in per second at the moment. He's popping down some more gens on the far side of the map with the mech boys here, and he spots them. With that beamy def gun, he's going to be able to take out that power node in the gens, or at least take out the node and capture it for himself. ManonMars finally recognizing that he really needs to be... He's coalescing his forces right here into the center. Going to try to get everything together and actually win an engagement. He's been at the advantage now, I feel, for the last couple engagements, but he's just been out of position pretty consistently. And it's understandable. That it's a problem I have with Eldar as well, is you kind of, you know, the inclination is to spread out, take all the map with Eldar, but you also need to know when to compress your forces back into a formidable front. Little missed micro over here. It looks like, oh no, DeJaVu is instead choosing to just go ahead and break the generators. And again, here we go. The entire force moves out of position to engage the mech boy and finds itself in kind of a tricky spot. Knobs on the field once again, able to threaten this Wraith Lord. This Wraith Lord has to be very careful. The beamy Luda is out here as well. Tank needs to get back into position and start blasting away, but needs to be careful from being inside of that Bright Lance arc. Manages to move in for another quick couple shots. If this Wraith Lord goes down, I think ManonMars might actually be in trouble once again. Oh no, we got the phase shift armor on the field. Does ManonMars have... Oh, he does. He's going to be dropping an Eldritch Storm right here. Let's see if he times it correctly. He's coming down right on top of those knobs. Ooh, big hits, but it looks like, yes, the knobs will survive just barely with a single model. Altark not quite able to finish them off, but the mech boy might be going down here instead. Still a good win for ManonMars after losing that Wraith Lord. That Wraith Lord was a pretty reasonable deterrent for the tank, but even with just the Bright Lance, that tank really, as we just saw, if he keeps it in the right position, the tank really can't get into the engagements too well. As it was, it only took a few shots and almost got destroyed, but DeJaVu managed to keep it alive, and I think that's going to be integral to keeping him in this game, as he only has 100 points left. But really, ManonMars only has this single weapon that can even threaten the tank at the moment. And with either the knobs, if he can get those back out here, oh man, he only has the one left. He might be going for a call to boys, maybe. I think you still can call to boys around the corpse of your hero. So that might be what he's opting to do here. Let's see. Yes, indeed, he does. He calls the boys. Oh, and conveniently, those knobs pop out right in front of that Bright Lance cannon, scaring it off without even having to turn around and face it. 202 to 94. And this has been a lot of back and forth. I thought DeJaVu was on the ropes. ManonMars now looking like he may be at the disadvantage here. Again, those orcs being able to fast tech into tier 3. He had so much power early game. And ManonMars has spent so much requisition. He's probably lost, let's see, 1, 3, 6, 9. He's lost at least 9 generators. So you figure that's 1,000 wreck. That's potentially 2 more squads that could be on the field if he hadn't lost his generators so much. I think really the name of the game is that he's just been constantly not where he needs to be with certain squads. Whereas DeJaVu has been kind of moving with the right amount of support and positioning. Warp Spider does have that phase armor, so if he can position it right, he can maybe take a couple squads out of the fight for at least a few seconds and maybe buy him some time to either catch this tank out of position or these knobs without support. Tank gets a shot in, knocks back that Bright Lance. Orc Slugger Boy's in a lot of trouble, but the knobs are moving in to support. Altark might be going down here. She's trying to escape. I don't know if the knobs are targeting her. Yes, she does go down. Banshee's suddenly in a lot of trouble as well. I'm not sure if he's using the Scorch Beam on that Guardian Weapons team, but he should be to try to get some extra bonus damage on those knobs during this engagement. 70 to 181 right now, but DeJaVu is bringing it back. Really been struggling through this game, but managing through superior economy to stick it out. And DeJaVu's really just been kind of the mindset like, go kill him. Just go kill the gens. It doesn't matter what he has, just get in there, keep the pressure on. I feel like a lot of players in his position would kind of be questioning whether they should advance or not, especially when he was down to just a few squads. Man, this tank is just ripping through all this light Eldar infantry. Guardians retreat just before taking another shot that probably would have taken out the majority of their health, if not give them outright. But yeah, DeJaVu's just been keeping the pressure on, like constantly just running up this eastern side of the map and taking out gens all day long. And despite that, ManonMars was never really out there to support them. So double sluggers at this point. One squad to repair the tank, one squad upgraded for combat. The knobs getting healed up on back home. They didn't actually lose any models, but they will have to hang home for a little while they get fixed up. Warp Spider teleports in. Ooh, another phase shift right here. You know what that's going to be. That's going to be another singularity. Let's see what he manages to tag with this. Warp Spider doesn't quite... Oh, he does get out of range. Ooh! And I think that is a squad down. Unupgraded sluggers immediately annihilated into tiny orky giblets by a well-placed phase shift singularity. Banshees just can't stand up to the force of these knobs and the sluggers without any support. With the Wraith Lord and the Autark, it was certainly possible, but now that they're just a singular melee squad, DeJaVu might just be unanswered at this point. He's got a second looted tank on the field. And ManonMars, despite getting some excellent plays here towards the end, getting those phase shift combos off pretty well. DeJaVu's been merciless in his execution here. Made a few mistakes here and there, losing some squads unnecessarily in the early game. But bringing it back pretty flawlessly. I feel like I don't often see this enough where players, especially in one-on-one games recently, want to stay in the match when they're in the disadvantage. I feel like without without constant stats or a ladder or anything like that, players are less inclined to try to fight it out. But this is just some proof right here, man, that you really should stick it out no matter what. I doubt these Dire Avengers are going to be going anywhere. Oh no, Singularity goes down and takes out his own Banshees. Oh, ManonMars is not happy about that. DeJaVu not really responding. He's usually pretty tact-to-turn player. He doesn't say too much throughout these games. But man, I think with the Banshees going down, another setup team going down there as well, that's probably going to be just about it for this match. 54 to 107, but DeJaVu is just rolling on up. He is going to yield to nothing. Power Farm's going to go down again for for ManonMars from DeJaVu, and there goes the GG from ManonMars. DeJaVu takes the game. Another fine day for the Orcs. Indeed. Wow! That was fun. Oh, I love seeing Orcs do orky things. Really managed to punish his opponent for not protecting his gens. That's just I mean, ManonMars should. I mean, for all intents and purposes, I think he should have won that match. He had a pretty good advantage in Tier 2, but he lost. Had to have been 12 or 1300 rec easy on gens alone. And we just saw DeJaVu continuing to bring it back and bring it back with the combination of putting the pressure on the generators and then finding ManonMars out of position once or twice. That was really all he needed to get back into it. Keeping the pressure on the gens while ManonMars was trying to get his own gen bash in and never quite pulling it off. He was using the Dire Avengers for that a few times, and I think that was kind of a mistake. He should have kept them around to be a threat for those melee squads, because even just the threat of that grenade can kind of keep your opponent on edge about where to approach. But anyways, that's the game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I did. Feel free to stop by my channel, my Facebook, my Steam page. Stop by the Elite Mod group. Get some games in on the Elite Mod. Send me those replays. I want to cast. I want to hear from you folks. Keep me updated. Keep the conversation going about Dawn of War. Anyways, this is Red-Rupee. I'll catch you guys next time.